Hi fellow makeup fiends and welcome to 13 Days of Horror. Okay, sorry, couldn't resist having Eddie in the video there. He's gonna sit here beside me while I make this video. So today I'm going to be talking about horror films. Now in the recent tag that I did, and also before I started to do the series, I did have some requests to talk about some of the things I've seen in the last year, horror-wise. I know I'm looking kind of weird. You know when you have one of those I want to experiment with makeup type of days? Yeah, this is what I did. Anyway. Yes, so when I did the horror tag, I did get a comment about the fact that most of the horrors that I seem to mention were sort of very mainstream, very, very popular horrors. And did I like any more of sort of not mainstream horror films? So I have been busy making lots of notes about lots of films that I like and also about the things that I've seen in the last year. Now we haven't actually been to the pictures much in the last year, so I haven't actually seen anything at the pictures horror wise. Things I have seen either on Netflix, on the horror channel or on TV in general. So I would say that the first thing really to mention is American Horror Story, because that is an amazing series. I really enjoyed the first series. I thought it was a fantastic concept, and of course I love that kind of haunted house type of thing anyway. So I really enjoyed the first series and I loved the characters. And what I loved about it when they came back for the second series, which was Asylum, I liked that they kept a lot of the same people in it, and that they played completely different characters. I think not only does this show you how amazing they are as actors because they play completely different people, but I like that they took the story somewhere else. So it didn't have to continue to be in that house. They actually took it somewhere else and made a whole new story. And this series is Coven. So I'm really looking forward to that. I know it's already started over in the US and it starts here. I think it's this week actually it starts. So I'm very excited to see that back because we do really love it. Now, Alec watched the first series with me, but he wasn't so much in the second, but Tony got into the second series with me. So we're definitely going to pick them up on DVD. I mean, they're definitely a series that I would watch again. I love them both. Like I said, I really love the horror story in a house, like a haunted house type thing anyway. But the second one, Asylum, I started off watching it and kind of thinking, I don't know if I'm going to get into this because I'm not into alien type things as a rule. That kind of doesn't interest me. It's not that I don't believe. Yeah, I do believe there is something out there. I just didn't really, I wasn't sure that I really wanted the story to do that because it's American Horror Story and I really wanted to stick to like real horror, haunted houses, all those sort of horror things, horror characters, horror themes. And I don't really see aliens as being that. I see aliens more as a sci-fi, though I know nowadays they do lean towards a horror just because of, you know, they do some pretty scary things. And there was a film I watched recently and I really can't remember the name of it. It's terrible, but it was a family and they were being targeted by aliens because they wanted the child. Somebody may remember the name. We got it out from... Dark Skies! Is it Dark Skies? Yeah, Tony says it's Dark Skies.
Family gets taken over by aliens.
Right, I think it's Dark Skies then. Yes it is, because that came through from Blockbusters and I was like, Dark Skies, what's this? Now I watched that. I didn't actually mind that. I thought that was okay. I don't like anything with sort of any kind of where animals or birds or anything like that get hurt, so I didn't really like the bit where all the birds flew in the house. I found that turned my stomach. Whereas I can watch anything. I mean, horror wise, you can chop limbs off people, you can tear them apart. Nothing like that really gets to me. I like when I asked my question in my horror tag is what creeps you out, I'm not asking you what scares you, because when I watch horror films I'm not scared, I'm exhilarated, I get an adrenaline rush, I really enjoy watching horror, and I think that's because you don't know what's going to happen next, and it's really quite exciting, and often it's quite a survival story. Who's going to make it, who's not, what's the character like, what's the story. I think horrors are very rich, or they can be, they're very rich in story content because they really have to have a strong story for that villain, that monster, so that you can really get engaged in it and believe, and that you can get involved with the characters. So you've got to have good characters as well. So for me, I think horror is a really strong genre, and it's not one Doesn't win lots of awards or anything, but I think that it should, because, you know, horror films are just amazing. The amount of effort and work that goes into creating all those special effects, and just the musical scores have a lot to do with how scared you can get. And yeah, I love horror films, and I always have since I was small. I mean, the first film I saw was Nightmare on Elm Street when I was around 9 or 10, but I do remember seeing Poltergeist before that. Although I don't remember a great deal about it, I don't think I saw much of it. But horror films have never frightened me. I don't know what it is about that, but they don't frighten Tony either. She's very much like me in the fact that, oh, you know, it's not real. And even though you can really get into it and get excited by it, it's like, yeah, you know that it's not real, if you know what I mean. But it doesn't stop me from enjoying it. It's not like I sit there and go, oh, that's not real, that's not real. It's a great horror story is something that you can believe in, that you can look at it and think, oh, that's so horrible, and, you know, and the worst ones are the ones that could be true. So things like Hostel and Saw. Yes, Saw is quite far-fetched, but it doesn't mean that it can't be true, because that is a man, and he doesn't use anything particularly out there. He doesn't come in people's dreams. He creates these amazing traps and puzzles that people have to work through and do horrible things to escape. So I actually really like Saw and Hostel. These kind of things, I think they're the most disturbing things because they could possibly be real. Yeah, so I love them, but you're kind of like, you know, oh, that could really happen kind of thing. But horror films like, obviously, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween and Friday the 13th, they're my favourite kinds of horrors. I love teen horror, slasher horror, those kinds of things, and those are things that can't be real, and those things kind of go beyond the realm of real, but I love that. The original Halloween is something that can't be beaten. It's an amazing horror film. It's all about mostly the suspense, the drama, and it's quite a creepy film, and that's just one of the films that always really stands out to me, and it's a film that I never get sick of watching. Now, I watched Halloween H2O last night. That's a one where sometimes in horror genres, if a couple of bad ones follow the first one, sometimes the rest of the series can really suffer from that because people say that sequels are bad. I don't look at things as this is a sequel. I just look at them as a film, and I watch the film and I want to see if I'm going to enjoy it. So I don't think, oh, this is another part of this big long sequel story thing. I just want to enjoy what I watch, and that's how we generally watch things here. We apply something called the 20-minute rule, and you watch the first 20 minutes, and if it's not getting anywhere and it's not looking good and it's still bad within 20 minutes, then generally 9 times out of 10 it is not worth actually persevering with, because it's not going to get any better. There's only been 1 or 2 films where it's actually, we kind of have stuck with it because we think it will get better, and it has, but generally 20 minutes is all we apply to it, and we're like, no, okay, because we've watched some really bad films and got to the end and thought, why did I even watch that? That was really bad. So that's why we now apply the 20-minute rule. So, kind of going off topic there. But yeah, so horror films for me, I mean, Scream could be possible. Now, the thing that I love about Scream, I know a lot of people are kind of, oh, I don't like Scream.
Was real.
Yeah.
There was murders and stuff going on.
Yeah. So Scream, for me, even though it could be possible, what I love about Scream is it has an amazing cast, great music soundtrack, and the settings are very good. I love the villain, he's possible, and I like the whole look of the outfit itself. I think it's, you know, it's a great costume. The mask itself is fantastic, and the face. But what I really love about it is the script that's kind of the main thing for me, particularly Scream 1, because it was very funny, it poked fun at the genre, it did things like, he said, I'll be right back, and then it's like, you know, they kind of talked about other horror films, particularly the scene where Randy was talking about the rules of horror, and about Jamie Lee Curtis and things. It's really quite good. So, yeah, that's what I really love the most about Scream, I think. I love everything about it. There's nothing that I don't love about it, and I can probably say the script backwards and forwards because I've seen it so many times. It's amazing. And last night we were sitting in bed, we'd just come up, and I realised that Scream was on Comedy Central. Yeah, what a funny place to have Scream. But it was on last night, and I was like, oh, I haven't got that on the planner downstairs, because I have on the planner upstairs Scream and Scream 4. They're my favourites out of the 4, and I have them on there, and whenever I just think, oh, I don't know what to watch, I put that on. I've seen Scream hundreds, if not thousands of times. I can't count how many times it's on so often. So now I've got it on the planner upstairs and downstairs, which might seem quite sad to some people, but I don't care because I really love the film. So, We're not going to talk too much about like all of the ones that I talked about in the tag, but we're going to talk some ones that are not in the tag. So things that I love, we'll talk about a couple of funny ones first. I love Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. If anybody hasn't seen that, please check it out. It's an amazing film. It's a cult classic. Elvira's amazing. She's incredibly funny, but it's kind of like, it's not really a very scary film, but you just can't help but love Elvira. She's amazing. So you definitely have to check that one out. And the other one is Shriek If You Know What I Did Last Friday the 13th. Now that's a spoof movie that kind of has got lost in the whole kind of spoof movie thing, because Scary Movie has kind of totally dominated really those kind of horror spoof genre. But Shriek If You Know What I Did Last Friday the 13th is a really good film, and it was the first spoof movie that I saw and I actually really enjoyed it, so I would definitely check that one out as well. The thing about horror genre as well that I love is that sometimes the worse the film is and the bad, it might be just such a bad film, but that's what makes it so good. And that's the funny thing about horror. Like in any other genre, a bad film is just a bad film, whereas sometimes with a bad horror film, it's kind of bad for different reasons, in the fact that, you know, the body parts don't look real, or the makeup's not very good, or the characters a bit wooden, but it just really makes it, for me, all the better. There are some films that I just absolutely love that are bad but good. And I do watch a lot of horror films. I watch a lot of horror films on the Horror Movie channel, and I didn't talk about them in the tag because although I do watch them, there's not, I can't even think of any of them where I've watched it and thought, wow, I really need to see that again. I need to get that on DVD. Whereas the ones I usually like, they're the ones that I will want to go out and get on DVD, and I will want to watch again. I've seen some really amazing ones. There was one, and I thought it was called Swine, but I can't seem to find it when I've googled it. And it was this bunch of teenagers, and they were on the way to a gig, and they broke down, as you do, in the middle of nowhere, and they went to this place. A couple of them went one way, the others went the other way, and there was this family there that were like half pig, half human, and they were like cutting people up and stuff, and that was actually quite a good film. But like I said, I've googled it and I can't seem to find it. I thought it was called Swine, but that was quite good. The effects weren't great, but I thought it was reasonable. So I really liked that one. And then I've got all my things written down here. Right, April Fool's Day is a fantastic film. That's often on actually. That was on quite recently and I did tape it on Sky. April Fool's Day is a brilliant story. I can't give too much away, but it's a group of teenagers who go onto this island for this weekend with their friend Muffy St. John. And I think it's Muffy, or is it Buffy? Buffy St. John? I can't remember her first name now. Yeah, so, and then lots of strange things start to happen, and that is so good. It's got such an amazing twist in the tale. What I will say is avoid the remake. The remake of April Fool's Day is not very good. I did purchase it from play.com. It cost me $2.99. Glad it didn't cost me any more. It was an okay film. It was reasonable. But it was nowhere near the original. The original is just amazing. I love the characters, but the story itself and the scares are really, really good. And some of them you don't really see coming. So I would definitely recommend April Fool's Day. I've also written down Hatchet 1 and 2, which were quite budget horror movies, but they were made by a person who loves horror. And they actually, in Hatchet 2, got a couple of cameos in there. I'm not going to mention because you should watch it and check it out. There's some real good, real important horror characters in there from other horror films. So, but Hatchet is just, the way that they kill people in that film, it's incredibly inventive. There are lots of things that happen in those two films where you've never seen anybody go like that before, and you're like, what? No, you just can't believe it. It's just amazing. But Hatchet 2 is the best because it does give more of the backstory and the reason behind it. And that's the things I like in horror. I like to have a good story. I don't just want to watch something that's full of gore. I like to watch a story, so Hatchet 2 is great. I wrote down The Unnameable. This is a horror film that I saw when I was about 11 and I got it on video from the video shop. And The Unnameable is amazing. The character is... It's really quite good effects for considering I think it was an early 80s movie. I don't know if you can get it on DVD because it is a very old film. But this is basically a couple of teens staying in a house, my favourite kind of thing. And there's this beast and yeah, I just really like that. There's lots of running around in dark corridors, and that's the kind of thing I like. But that was actually a really good film. I don't know if you'll ever be able to pick that up, but if ever you see it on video and you've still got a video machine, definitely pick it up because it's definitely worth a watch. I've also put down Boo. Now Boo is the one where we just came across it and actually purchased it. It was quite a cheap DVD, and Trick or Treat is another one from the same kind of thing where we've just purchased it, even though we hadn't seen it, heard of it, and loved them both, to be honest. Boo is set in a hospital. Now I like things like that also, and that's got an amazing storyline to it, and Trick or Treat is also very good. Now that is the 4 stories woven into one. I'm sure I'm talking about the right film here. Yeah, Trick or Treat is, and there are some very incredibly scary sort of images in that. There's like, oh, it's just, yeah, you've really got to see Trick or Treat. It's really a journey, and I wasn't sure I was going to like it, but I actually did really love it, so I definitely recommend that one. What's that say? Okay, Hell Night and Prom Night. Now Prom Night is the remake, that's the one that I prefer, and Hell Night is Linda Blair. Hell Night is amazing. It's an 80s horror again. It's just fantastic. I think the characters are very good in it. They are likeable characters. And yeah, the story behind that one, and the story of the family who lived in this house and how the father killed them all, it's a really good, strong story. And that's definitely something where I saw that a very long time ago, but I've seen it multiple times since because it's just such an amazing film. And along the same vein is Terror Train, which is Jamie Lee Curtis. That is an amazing film as well. As you can tell from most of my choices, they are teen horror, slasher horror. That is what I like. I'm not such a fan of zombies and vampires and witches and things like that, but there are films with those characters in that I do like. I mean, I'm not a massive zombie fan, but I love the Walking Dead TV series, which has just come back in the UK. So I do enjoy zombies. It's not something where I'd immediately want to go out and watch that. Whereas if I see sort of a teen sort of horror, slasher horror, then I am interested in it, and ultimately I think, oh, I really want to see that. But I do tend to like things from right across the board. I'll watch any kind of horror movie, as a rule. So also I've put Texas Chainsaw. Not to be mistaken with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1, 2 or the remakes. Texas Chainsaw is a new film and it was exclusive to Netflix. It's not on Sky or anything yet. We actually just watched it recently. I love this film. I like the main lead girl in it. I think she's great. She's a great actress. I love the story. I love the backstory behind it. And there are literally moments in that where you're like, no! It's one of those horrors where you're like shouting out at them because they do stupid things. But this is what happens in horror. Otherwise, you know, if they did all the sensible things, then there would be nothing horrific about it. But yeah, absolutely love Texas Chainsaw. It's definitely one to check out, and it's definitely one that I do want to get for my DVD collection because I just thought it was an amazing film. I've also written down Urban Legends. Of course, that's one that is quite known, really. I love all of the urban legend films. I love urban legends anyway. I've got several books on it, and I've read them, and I love reading about urban legends. I think that they're really interesting. This first film is really good. Rebecca Gayheart plays a fantastic role in that. She is just unhinged. But yeah, I just love the story, and of course Jared Leto's in that. Quite an early appearance for him in movies. But yeah, they're really, really good. And oh, also, I can't remember the guy's name now, but he was in is it Dawson's Creek or something? I can't remember, but he was in Skulls as well. Anyway, yeah, good cast, really good story, and again, somebody just acting out the whole urban legend thing. And again, the horror villain in there wasn't like massive effort to make it all grotesque, and it was like hooded character, which is what I also liked about I Know What You Did Last Summer. Although I do prefer I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. I love the location, I like the cast better in that one, I like that Brandy's in that. I think that the story's great. They're coming onto this island. Early little cameo from Jack Black there, who plays a crazy sort of druggie, and he's trying to sell drugs to them and stuff, but he's like really good. But it's a really good story, and I really like the action in that one. And I do like an outcome where somebody survives, if possible. I really like that. But also the music for that as well, the soundtrack's really good. I've got the soundtrack for that on DVD. On DVD? On CD. I put Black Christmas because I really enjoyed Black Christmas, and I've seen the original and the remake, like them both. I thought they were very good films, very good story. That's definitely something that you should check out. I mean, they're on quite often. Some of these films do appear every now and then on the horror movie channel. I put down The People Under the Stairs because it doesn't get mentioned very much, but it actually is a very good film, and the idea that all these people and all these children are trapped in this house, and there's little passages in between the walls, and the main guy in that is just really, he's horrible. It's just like, yeah, that's a really good film. I really enjoyed that, and I've seen that several times. It keeps you kind of on the edge of your seat. You want this kid to get out, and then he discovers all these horrible things, and it's just a really good story. I really like People Under the Stairs. The House on Sorority Row, very good. Again, The Slumber Party Massacre. Those are both sort of 80s films, both very good. Again, it's my standard genre that I like. Sleepaway Camp. This is something where I'd heard good things about it, and we managed to pick them up in a charity shop, very cheap. And we picked up all 3 of them, and we watched them one after the other. They were really good. I mean, it's along the same sort of veins as, like, you know, it's a camp and it's like Friday the 13th and there's a killer. But that's my favourite kind of thing, so they all get offed one by one and you're just wondering who's next. But Sleepaway Camp's actually very good. I've also put The Lost Boys, because I loved The Lost Boys. Got the soundtrack, had the t-shirt, had the poster, had the DVD, had the video. Love The Lost Boys. Love Keith Sutherland in that. Couldn't say his name there. I love him in that. I just find him incredibly sexy in that. But there's a lot of really great people in there. Of course, you've got Corey Haim and Corey Feldman in there. Jason Patrick. Just really good. It's a good story, and it always kind of reminds me of the Goonies when you see the Frog Brothers, and you know, we've got Corey Haim and Corey Feldman in there. So that's a really good film. But that is a total cult classic. That's been on several times in the last couple of weeks. And what I love about the run up to Halloween is there are a lot of horror films shown on TV, which is great because I've just been loving watching them. And 2 of my favourite films have been on recently, which is 13 Ghosts and House on Haunted Hill. And I've taped them both and just kept them on the plan, and I've watched them several times already. I've watched House on Haunted Hill 3 times already, and 13 Ghosts I've watched that. I think I've watched that about 4 or 5 times. I watched Halloween H2O last night. It's just great to see all these horror films and be able to watch them. But 13 Ghosts is actually a fantastic story. I love the house, and I love the characters, which is why I did the Angry Princess. I just think that there's an incredible lot of thought gone into that story, and the 13 ghosts within it, and the whole concept of it, and it's just really nicely shot and great, like, sort of special effects, particularly in the remake, because I think it's actually a remake of an original story. But the house itself, with all the glass walls and how it moves, and the machine at the end, it's a very good film. You should definitely check that one out. And of course, you've got in there, his name's totally gone out of my head. I can't believe it. How can I lose that name? But it's the guy who played Stu in Scream. And he was also Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo films. And he is very good in that, so. I've put down The Monster Squad. If you haven't seen this, please definitely check this one out. This has been on Sky loads lately. I love The Monster Squad. It's one of my all-time favourite films. It's a very child-friendly film, and it's basically these monsters are looking for this book that this child has, and you know, they want to come back and sort of take over the world type thing. And it's Frankenstein's really quite funny in it, and the Mummy, and Dracula's there, and it's standard horror characters, and it's these children who've got to save this night on Halloween night, and it's a very good film. You can't help but have a bit of a laugh about it, but it's also just like it's just one of those films, just like I love the Goonies. It's just The Monster Squad. It's just another one of those great childhood films that you just never forget. I put The Craft. I wouldn't strictly say it was exactly a horror as such, but it does fit within the genre because it's witchcraft. I really like that. I really love the story behind that as well. There are great effects in that. It tells a great story, you know, with all the revenge and not caring about what you look like. It's not all about looks. It's just a very good, strong story. And there's a lot of really good images in that kind of like stick with you. So I really enjoyed that one. I've mentioned Halloween H2O. Wrong Turn. I like the first one. Not so much the second and third. Love the fourth one. But then that one's in sort of a hospital sort of setting in the middle of nowhere, and it's a snowy night. yeah, so I really liked Wrong Turn 4. There's a bit in that where this girl's trying to get out through the snow and you think she's going to get away, and he grabs a hold of her, and it's like, oh yeah, I love moments like that, like your heart in your throat. Fantastic. I think I have mentioned everything. The only things I haven't mentioned are the childhood type horror things, so I will talk about those because luckily Tony has always been into those sort of same things as me. She's not scared by it, so she's always quite like the things like Scooby-Doo. Now I love that because I was into Scooby-Doo massively when I was little. I absolutely love Scooby-Doo, and always have and always will, and Tony got into that. The first DVD I ever got was Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, and she still has that. It's got one of those old cardboard sort of covers, and she was totally hooked from watching that. Now my favourite films from Scooby-Doo are old ones. Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost and Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island. Both of them are fantastic films. Love those. You can't beat a bit of Scooby-Doo. And we still, like I say, love them now. And the real action films they did were also very good. Also in like sort of childhood things, of course you have Goosebumps, which I remember from me being little. And I didn't read the Goosebumps books because they came out when I was a bit older for them, so I did read the Point Horrors. I do have a massive collection there, and I absolutely love Point Horror. I've actually read them several times, and I'm reading them at the moment, a couple of them, because I want to maybe write something in that sort of area. I generally write crime fiction, but I have dabbled in horror as well, and I've dabbled in sort of Goosebumps child horror. I think I might quite fancy writing something in the teen horror sort of genre. If anybody wants to hear more about my writing, please let me know. I'll do a video on that as well. Quite excited to kind of share how I research and what I do and ideas and things, so let me know if you want to hear about that. The other things that kind of came out more when Tony was little are Mona the Vampire. Love Mona the Vampire. I think it's a lovely series. It's horror in a very gentle, childish sort of way, and Mona's a lovely character, but she just kind of sees horror everywhere, and the principal's a monster or whatever, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of Goosebumps in a way, but it's actually just very good, and I like the animation of that. It's good old standard animation. So Mona the Vampire is a lovely character. Also film-wise, Hotel Transylvania, love that film. Paranorman, both fantastic films. I can't watch Frankenweenie, unfortunately. I find it too upsetting, plus the little dog looks like our Molly, and I find that quite hard. And what else? What did I put down? Monster House, which was Tony's first experience of like a proper horror, because although it is a child's animation, it is quite scary actually. It does have quite a scary sort of story to it, and there's quite a lot of scary imagery, but it's actually a very, very good film. So those kind of things, yeah, I think that's a good place for a child to kind of start out and see whether horror is going to be for them really. But Tony loves Monster House now, although it creeped her out a bit at the time, I think. And my favourite horror film for children is Disney's Haunted Mansion. That's been on recently again. I've watched it 3 times recently. I love that film so much. Eddie Murphy makes me laugh anyway, but although he's not so good anymore, I think recently he's not been so great. But I love him in the Haunted Mansion, and I love all the characters and the story. And it is just a really nice story. They've been brought there because his wife looks like somebody who died, and it's quite complicated to kind of talk about as such, but they're brought to this mansion for a reason, and then you find the whole backstory when they get in there. It's a really good story, and there's some quite nice messages in it, and there's just some really great characters in it, and one of my favourite characters is Madame Leota, and she's the crystal ball character, and I'm actually going to do her, so watch out for that in the next couple of days. It's not the most dramatic and difficult of tutorials, but yeah, I really love her character, and that's I think it's Jennifer Tilly plays her, and she's just, I love her voice. I think she's fantastic. And I think that's it. Yes, that's everything that I've put down. So what I'll say is, I do mostly love my mainstream horror, my Halloweens, Jason, Freddy, all that kind of stuff, Scream. I do watch stuff other than that, but it's not something where I'll watch it and I'll want to buy it, or I'll want to watch it over and over again. I watch lots of horror films on the horror channels and kind of never give them a second thought. I enjoy them at the time, but I don't want to revisit them. The ones that I do want to revisit are the ones I kind of mentioned, and just ones that have kind of stuck with me from, I like a lot of 80s horror films, I don't know. I just think the 80s was a great time in general for movies and films. There are so many great 80s films that I absolutely love, outside the genre as well as in. But yeah, I love a good horror film. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's something a little different today because I've been doing a lot of makeup ones over the past few days, so I thought I'd give you something a little different today. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I want to thank you very much for watching. I'm going to love and leave you and see you all soon. Bye.